Minimalism didn't die, it just got boring. Somewhere along the way, everything started to look the same. Same neutral palettes, same grid system, and the same safe, tasteful layouts. And for a while that worked. Minimalism gave us clarity. It gave us structure. It cleaned up the design world that used to feel chaotic and overwhelming. But now, scroll through enough websites, brands, or portfolios, and they all look the same. And that's a problem because design is meant to communicate something distinct. So what happens when good design becomes invisible? Designers, they start pushing back. They start bending the rules again, reintroducing personality, and creating work that actually makes you feel something again. And this is the rise of post-minimalism, or what I like to call design with a pulse. For years, minimalism dominated everything. Branding systems, UI, UX, websites, even social media aesthetics. Clean grids, sans serif typefaces, muted palettes, white space everywhere. And just to be very clear, it wasn't a bad thing. Minimalism taught designers the most important fundamentals: clarity over clutter, hierarchy over chaos, intentionality over decoration. It forced us all to ask what actually needs to be here. But then over time, something shifted. Minimalism stopped being a philosophy, and it started becoming a formula. And when something becomes a formula, people just stop questioning it. And then they just start to replicate it. And that's where things get dangerous creatively. Because then it's this paradox where things become imitation rather than communication. So designers didn't abandon minimalism. They outgrew just using it blindly. Post-minimalism isn't about going backwards. It's not a return to chaos or random clutter. And it's definitely not throw everything on the canvas and hope it works. It's actually more nuanced than that. Think of it like this. Minimalism says remove everything that doesn't serve a purpose. Post-minimalism says what if expression is part of the purpose? And that one little shift, it opens the door to so much more creative freedom. Now designers are reintroducing elements that minimalism stripped away, but with a much stronger understanding of why they're doing it. You will see things like bold color accents used with precision, asymmetrical layouts that feel energetic but controlled, typography that carries emotion, not just information, and motion that adds personality and storytelling. It's not about adding more, it's about adding meaning. Minimalism worked because it solved a real problem. Before it, design could feel overwhelming. Too many competing elements, too much visual noise, not enough structure, and minimalism simplified everything. But here's the thing about design trends. They don't just solve problems, they create new ones. Because once everything adopts the same visual language, it stops being different. And then it all becomes background noise with all the other brands. And when it becomes background noise, it loses its power. Especially now, in a world where people are constantly scrolling, constantly consuming, and constantly deciding what exactly is worth their attention, being clean isn't enough anymore. Being modern isn't enough. Design has to interrupt. Not in an aggressive way, but in a way that feels fresh. Something that feels unexpected and memorable to the viewer. And minimalism at scale stopped doing that. So here is where post-minimalism really takes shape. Designers are bringing personality back to their work, but they're doing it with intention and control. I'm going to mention this queen again, but you could see it in the work of Paula Scher. She has always embraced bold, expressive typography, but she does it where she's still grounding her work in strong grid systems. Or studios like Stegmeister and Walsh. They have built their entire identities around emotion, experimentation, and play. The only difference is now that approach, it isn't niche anymore. It is spreading across digital design. And that's something that matters, because digital spaces were where minimalism was the most rigid. But now, websites feel alive. Interfaces feel responsive in a human way. Brands start to feel like they actually have a voice. And it is because of something that I talk about on this channel all the time. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with character. And character, it requires a little bit of risk. So what are the actual visual signals of this shift? This is where you start to recognize post-minimalism in the wild. Number one, strategic colors. Color is no longer avoided, it is used deliberately. One single bold color can really transform a minimal layout. It could turn it into something very memorable. And number two, asymmetry with intention. Designers are breaking the grid, but not completely abandoning it. They are creating tension and movement while still maintaining balance. And number three, motion as a core element. Animation isn't just a bonus feature anymore. It is part of the design language. Transitions, hover states, micro interactions, they guide the viewer. They introduce hierarchy. They are used to create emotional moments. And number four, expressive typography. Typography is stepping into the spotlight. It's bigger, bolder, more experimental, but still readable because function still matters. And number five, layering and visual depth. Flat design is evolving. We are seeing more overlap and more texture, more dimensional work, creating compositions that feel immersive instead of static. This shift is bigger than aesthetics. It is changing how we think about the user experience entirely. For the longest time, UI and UX design focused heavily on simplicity, efficiency, predictability, and those things are still essential. But now there's another layer being added, and that's emotion. Designers are asking things like, how can I make this feel better, not just function better? And this means that we are seeing interfaces that react in a playful way, use animation to guide attention naturally, creating moments of surprise that feel rewarding. Because usability gets users through the experience, but emotion is what makes people remember it. And in a competitive digital space, being memorable is everything. And this shift isn't random. It is actually enabled by technology. A few years ago, a lot of expressive ideas weren't practical. Websites had to be lightweight. Interactions, they had to be simple. And animations, they were limited. But now, browsers are more powerful than ever. Devices are faster, and tools are more advanced. Designers can experiment in ways that weren't even possible before. Think of things like real-time interactions, advanced motion design, interactive storytelling, and dynamic layouts. All of this makes expressive design not just possible, but also very scalable. So post-minimalism, it isn't just a creative shift. It's a technological one too. So here's the reality. Post-minimalism is very easy to mess up because once you start loosening the rules, it is very tempting to loosen them a bit too much. And that's where things start to fall apart. There is a very thin line between expressive and chaotic, dynamic and overwhelming, creative and confusing. The goal isn't to abandon structure. It is to build on top of it. And that is why minimalism, it still matters. It trained designers to be intentional, to think critically, to edit, to refine. Post-minimalism just asks you to take those skills and push it a little further. Minimalism wasn't wrong. It was necessary. It gave us the foundation to create clear, functional, and intentional designs. But design evolves. And right now we're in a moment where designers are realizing something. You don't have to choose between clarity and creativity. You can have the best of both worlds. Structure and personality. Function and expression. Order and experimentation. And honestly, that is where some of the most exciting works are happening right now. Because design isn't just about making things look good. It's about making people stop, pay attention. It is about making people feel something. And post-minimalism, that is exactly what it's bringing back. But okay guys, that's all I have for you right now. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more videos just like this because I make them every single week. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!